The first month of the 2025 NFL season has officially wrapped up. As we head into October, we have a much clearer idea of the fantasy landscape this season, but it is still far from crystal clear. There are guys who have not lived up to expectations and players who haven't even came close to reaching their peaks. And in the early stages of the season, we can take advantage of that and bring those guys home to us. In this video, we will be going through 9 players who could realistically win you your leagues in the final 3 quarters of the season. So let's jump straight in, starting with the running back position. Josh Jacobs was an early to mid second round pick in this summer's drafts, being around the 8th running back taken. After his nuclear performance in week 4, he now finds himself as the RB7 in PPR, with nearly half his points coming from that week 4 31.7 point performance. But prior to week 4, he did not have a single finish in the top 16, the best finish coming in week 1, where he had 14 PPR points and was the RB18. Had he had another disappointing week, he 100% would have been a surefire buy low. Although he may not be as cheap now, he is still someone you should be looking to add to your squad, and his disappointing 3-week stretch to start the season could still be enough for one of your league mates to send him off. Upon returning from their bye week, Josh Jacobs will face the 3rd easiest remaining strength of schedule for running backs in the league as things currently stand. On top of that, Jacobs will face some of his easiest opponents between weeks 14 through 16, which is fantasy playoff time. The Bears' run D has been absolute Swiss cheese this season, allowing the highest rush yards per game and total rush yards. And Jacobs gets to face them twice in that playoff span. Shifting away from the schedule, let's talk about the usage he is seeing this season. He currently leads the entire league in rush attempts, and the next closest Packers running back in carries has 65 less carries. Marshawn Lloyd is going to eat a little bit into Jacobs' carries when he's activated off IR, but he's no Josh Jacobs, and it's not going to have a significant impact on his workload. So you may be asking, how come Jacobs isn't a top 5 fantasy running back with all these touches? 2 out of his first 3 games were against statistically top 10 run defenses in the league, with Cleveland, who they faced in week 3, being maybe the best run D in the league. We saw what he can do when he faced the weak Cowboys defense, run defense putting up 30 plus points. So guys, buy Josh Jacobs before it's too late. This guy finished as the PPR RB6 last season. He's proven he can be a top 10 running back. This Packers team looks really good, and everything the rest of the season is working in his favor to have a really strong season. So moving on to rookie Travion Henderson, who has had a very disappointing start to the season. He creeped up into the first 4 to 5 rounds of fantasy drafts by September, making him a starting running back on many rosters. And he has not lived up to that hype yet. So the issue over the first 2 weeks of the season was that Ramondre Stevenson, who's an established veteran playmaker, outcarried Henderson 18-8. Not to mention, Antonio Gibson was outcarrying Travion Henderson in week 2. This wasn't because Henderson is a lesser running back than those 2 guys, but because he is still a rookie who has been struggling with pass blocking. And if you can't pass block consistently, you can't be trusted to be out on the field all the time. And that in turn just creates less opportunities for real life and for fantasy. But this is not going to be the case much longer. One of Trey's strongest attributes entering the NFL draft was his elite pass blocking capabilities we saw at Ohio State, which is slowly but surely translating to the NFL. And we've already seen his usage going up on a weekly basis. In the last 2 weeks, he's outcarried Ramondre Stevenson 18-13, while being the 4th highest targeted player in New England's offense and nabbing the 3rd most receptions on the team. The Pats drafted this guy in the top of the 2nd round to be a cornerstone player on this offense, and we're going to see that sooner rather than later. Trey's combination of what he brings as a pass catcher and a runner on this improved New England offense gives him real upside to be the league winner he was drafted to be. The stats you see on the screen are from the first 4 weeks of Bucky Irving's rookie season last year, where he eventually finished as the PPR RB13. His situation is really similar, in my opinion, to Henderson's in the sense of usage and the fact that he was behind a veteran back for many weeks before he really separated himself to be that lead back. More often than not, rookie running backs struggle to produce for fantasy early on in the season. Again, another example here on your screen is Jahmyr Gibbs, who had a terrible start to his rookie season and then finishes the PPR RB10. So back to talent, trust Yam Talks, and buy Travion Henderson low while you still can. Moving on to the other Ohio State rookie running back, it's starting to look like I was very, very wrong about Quinshon Judkins this summer when I said do not draft him. I was never fading the talent, but more so the fact that he was going to not practice with the team all summer, plays for the Cleveland Browns, and was facing criminal charges and a possible suspension. But literally none of that has mattered since he's returned to the field. He's currently averaging the 11th highest PPR points per game at the running back position with 16 points per game. And in week 4, he just posted his first 20-point outing. It's so scary that he's been doing this with no practice with the team all summer, no preseason, just being thrown in there. This just speaks volumes for Quinshon Judkins' talent as a player. Judkins also finished as a top 12 running back in both weeks 3 and 4, finishing as the RB11 in both weeks. What I find the most impressive about his strong week 4 performance is that even in a game script that should have hindered Judkins' usage, just being down the whole game against a really strong team, the Browns continued to feed him, resulting in 115 total yards. So it's starting to look like with the small sample size that he is script proof. This offense is going to look to run through him, especially Dylan Gabriel coming in now and maybe even Shedeur Sanders getting some snaps at some point this season. They're going to have to rely on their talented back in Judkins. He has fully taken over this Browns backfield, and he's looking like a legit RB1 for fantasy and a potential league winner. The value may not be as low right now as it once was, but this is still a player that you can grab for a reasonable price that will pay off the rest of the season. So this list is filled with rookie running backs, and if you were freaking out about Ashton Jeanty prior to week 4, patience should be your word of the day because patience is starting to pay off here. Jeanty was the number 1 running back in all of fantasy in week 4, posting a seismic 33.5 PPR points on 3 total touchdowns and 155 total yards. There is no doubt the Raiders' run blocking has been bad this season, contributing to the slow start for Jeanty. But in week 4, they did play much better. And when you pair that with an abysmal Bears run defense, you see fireworks. If Jeanty had another disappointing week, I still would not have freaked out. He for sure would have been one of my top 3 buy low players. I doubt he falls into the buy low category after last week, but you could still trade for him right now and win that trade. This man was a generational running back coming out of Boise State. And as the season progresses, the offense is going to continue to work and play through him, resulting in consistent RB1 outings. I fully think Ashton Jeanty has arrived, and we're going to just see elite production for most of the season. So buy him while you can. The final running back on this list is another stud rookie. Omarion Hampton is likely going to cost you an arm and a leg after his last 2 performances since Najee Harris went down. He is finally shaping up to be the player he was drafted to be in the first 3 to 4 rounds of fantasy drafts. But just in case you play in a league maybe not as competitive, go all in on Hampton. He's poised, in my opinion, to finish as a top 10 to top 12 fantasy running back on what's a really strong Chargers team that likes to run the ball a lot, and he is the clear-cut lead back at this point. I wanted to include him in this video just to say, just ask your league mates what it would take for a trade to happen. Even if it's a league mate you don't think will trade him, just ask, because you may be surprised. And this is a guy that I'd be willing to trade a lot for to get on your team if you need a RB1 or even want to have an upgrade at RB2. So moving on to wide receivers, we're going to stick to the rookie theme. I don't blame you if you don't spend your time watching Panthers football, but if you have tuned in this season, you'd be aware to the fact that rookie wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan is legit. He's currently the 13th leading receiver in yards across the NFL and the 2nd highest amongst rookies, only 4 yards behind Emeka Egbuka. PFF also has him as the highest graded rookie wide receiver through 4 weeks. Within the Panthers offense itself, not a single player is even close to McMillan's production as a receiver. He has led the teams in receiving yards every single week as a rookie. Through 4 weeks, he accounts for nearly 25% of Bryce Young's targets, 20% of the team's receptions, and 34% of the team's receiving yards. Beyond just the stats, he's made some highlight plays almost every week, reminding us why he was drafted 8th overall. But with all these positives, he is still only the PPR wide receiver 33 in fantasy. So why does all this even matter? This matters because you need to take advantage of this low standing and go get him now. we are seeing every indication that he will be an elite fantasy asset by the end of the season. High volume for a wide receiver is key for significant fantasy production, and T-Mac is already seeing that volume. Just looking at his fantasy points, you may not be impressed to the start of his season or how his first month of his rookie seasons look like, but trust me, if you watched him play, this man is legit, and I really do think he has the potential to be like a top 8-ish receiver in the NFL within the next 2 to 3 years. The current issue with the Panthers offense is that they're missing a lot of basically all their starting receivers, with Jalen Coker being out on IR, Xavier Legette being out the last 2 weeks, Jimmy Horn yet to play, JT Sanders going down in week 3, and recently David Moore going on IR. So now these guys may not be household names, but they're still Bryce Young's primary weapons outside of McMillan. And in the absence of these players, defenses over the past 2 weeks have been double teaming T-Mac in only his first 4 weeks as an NFL player. This has made it extremely difficult for Bryce to consistently get the ball to their best player. And on top of that, there's just been a few missed opportunities between T-Mac and Bryce that could have resulted in some big plays, including a couple touchdowns. But Jimmy Horn does return in week 5. Jalen Coker is now eligible to return off IR, and Legette should be good to go soon. This is going to force opposing defenses to divert some of their attention to these guys, which is going to result in more opportunities for T-Mac to shine. And speaking of these opposing defenses, Panthers wide receivers face the 6th most favorable strength of schedule the rest of the season, and Bryce Young faces the 4th most favorable schedule for quarterbacks the rest of the season. This Carolina team is also likely going to be playing from behind most weeks, and that means they are going to be passing the ball a lot. And while that is the case, a lot of these almost touchdowns, almost big plays are going to turn into touchdowns and turn into big plays, making T-Mac a legit fantasy wide receiver that you're going to want to have down the stretch. From one first-round wide receiver to another, let's talk about why you need to be buying up Matthew Golden. The Green Bay Packers are currently 8th in the league in passing yards per game, and Jordan Love is accomplishing this without really having a true go-to wide receiver 1. This is classic post-Devontae Adams Green Bay, where we see the passes spread out across the offense and guys taking turns being the weekly wide receiver 1. But I do think those days are soon coming to an end because Green Bay has not had a wide receiver talent like Matthew Golden since Devontae Adams. Each passing week, we've seen Golden's role as a receiver grow with added targets, receptions, and yards. Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff are still really figuring out how to best utilize their first-round pick. I truly believe after Green Bay's bye week in week 5, we'll see Golden receive an increased workload, including more deep ball opportunities. We've seen the Packers mostly use Golden in screen passes, design run plays. He's returning punts for some reason, but they're not really leveraging his abilities as a speedy deep threat that propelled him into the first round of the NFL draft. He's been able to create some separation down the field through September, but Jordan Love and him haven't really been able to connect yet on a weekly basis. No doubt he is going to be competing for targets with guys like Tucker Kraft, Dobbs, Wicks, Jaden Reed when he's back. But just considering the wide receivers in that room, Golden is the most promising to separate himself as the alpha. Over the last 2 weeks, we've already kind of seen this, where he's led all Packers wide receivers in receptions and receiving yards. The touchdowns are going to come soon. It feels like we're going to see a superior Matthew Golden after the bye week, making this the perfect time to scoop him up off of someone's bench. The next receiver on this list is Rashee Rice. The 2-2 Kansas City Chiefs have not really looked like the Mahomes-led Chiefs we're used to seeing outside of probably week 4 against Baltimore. A lot of this has to do with the lack of guys making plays on this offense. Their run game has also been terrible, in turn forcing Mahomes to shoulder the responsibilities of this offense's production. I don't think this run game is going to get any better this season. It's going to be Mahomes leading this team all season. And it's really hard to do that effectively when you don't have your wide receiver 1, who is clearly the best receiving weapon on the team. But in 2 weeks, we will see a healthy Rashee Rice return to the field and absolutely open up this offense. Prior to his injury in week 4 last season, Rice was on pace to finish as a PPR wide receiver 6, averaging 21.6 points in only his second season. During that span, he was operating as Mahomes' top guy, and there is no reason at all to believe that that won't be the case again this season. Rashee is going to be a fantasy wide receiver one by the end of October. And while he's been useless over the first month of the season, obviously being suspended, and that may find himself on a team in your league that has had a losing start to the season. So send an offer to that team that brings immediate relief to maybe a 1-3, 0-4, even a 2-2 team that has Rashee Rice just sitting there on the bench. There might also be teams in your league that have been perfectly fine about the services of Rice, so you should also be seeing if those owners are willing to part ways with him. I don't necessarily think Rashee is a buy low, but he's a proven elite fantasy wide receiver you should be looking to buy nonetheless. Lastly, I want to briefly touch on Brock Bowers. If someone in your league who took him early is regretting their decision, trade for him right now. Bowers is coming off probably the greatest rookie season by a tight end in NFL history, while also finishing as a tight end one in fantasy. He's been battling a minor knee injury he suffered at the end of week 1, which has been limiting his production. But in week 1, prior to that injury, he did finish as a tight end 2 with 15.3 PPR points. I'm not going to get as insightful here compared to the other players in this video. His rookie season was not a fluke. This guy was a beast in college. He was drafted early in the draft last year, and this is an improved Raiders offense. I would fully bank on his talent and look to take him away from a disgruntled owner. So those are 9 guys who I think everyone should be looking to trade for right now, whether you're winning, losing, whatever it may be, because the season is still early and we can still either keep winning or turn things around. Make sure if you haven't already liked this video, drop some comments in the comment section below, hit that subscribe button, follow me on X for weekly fantasy analysis, and thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch y'all later.